today. I'm really excited to walk through this presentation in office hours. I will be taking some Q&A at the end, but I think it's a really tricky thing for agencies when you're starting to offer review management, or even if it's something that you've been doing for a while, finding that kind of playbook, that process, that sweet spot when it comes to making sure that you're offering the right services, managing your time, managing your clients, making sure that everything is on track and you have it all set up to deliver as much value as possible and to ultimately keep your clients on and continue to offer that service. So what I'm going to do today, this is actually based on a blog post. This will be recorded, it is being recorded, and so I will add this to the blog post after it's over, probably first thing tomorrow. But if you have any questions as I go through this, please don't hesitate to drop them in the chat. So when we're talking about the review management strategy for an agency, I like to think about this part in 3 phases, and we're talking about the first 30 days, is you've already in phase 1 made the pitch, you've made the proposal, and you've closed the deal with your clients. Phase 2 is going to be this first 30-day implementation, and a lot of it is really the hardest part with review management, which is like setting everything up in the first place. Phase 3 is actually continuation. A lot of it is maintenance and just continually trying to improve. But I feel like if you deliver your value to your clients in the first 30 days of bringing them on under the review management strategy, chances are they will stay with you for the long haul, because the one thing that we all know is that with review management, it's not like a project that you can set it and be done with it. The way that reviews bring value to your company is it's ongoing because of the way that people consume reviews. So, a review that you've seen in the past week is always going to be more valuable than a review from a year ago, 2 years ago. And so when you're talking to clients and you're making that pitch, you're pitching the idea that you want to continually be asking for reviews and generating new reviews, because not only does that matter when customers are looking at your reviews, but it also matters to Google. They value fresh content. And so if you're getting Google reviews, generating new ones will ultimately continue to help you to rank. So when it comes to the agenda of a 30-day review management plan, and you can see here the link to the blog post, that actually goes more in depth in terms of what I'm covering today. But the way I think about it is a lot of the massive work happens in the first 2 weeks. The first week is really kind of, and we'll go into the details of the different meetings and action plans that you're going to want to set up, but setting the baseline, setting the goals and objectives, identifying where the client is at when it comes to their existing reviews. Then, the second week is about review generation. So setting up their funnel, setting up the workflows in which they're going to be adding their customer info into the system to request reviews, configuring the monitoring notifications, making sure that everyone is getting all of their notifications when new reviews come in, both the agency and your actual clients. So depending on who's going to be responding to those reviews, doing the marketing, setting that up when it comes to social sharing and the review stream, scheduling your actual review performance reports. And then once everything is pretty much set up, after that, it's a lot of checking in on the review generation, checking in on the reporting, checking in on your clients, ensuring that they are, adding customer information to make the review request, or if you set up an integration to automate the process, that is all still happening smoothly, which it should. So we're going to go into the details. One thing I want to clarify with this as well is when you're looking at this agency playbook, a lot of this, and we'll talk about the flexibility of the clients, but a lot of this is flexible in general. Some people may prefer to have all of the setup done in the very first week. It's a lot of work, especially if you're bringing on a lot of clients at the same time and if you're doing the work for them as opposed to providing like a self-service option. Um, not just working in a consultative sort of practice, then you might want to take the full 2 weeks to allot your time for your billable hours to, make sure that you are, doing everything properly and allotting enough time for you to really set them up for success with the system. So the way I've broken down this agency playbook is between the action items, the things that you and your staff will do in between meetings versus the actual meetings you're going to want to set up with clients to go over that they understand the processes, train them if you need to, get their approval on specific aspects of review management. So that's how we're going to think about this whole playbook and how it's going to work. So as I mentioned, flexibility, it's also going to depend on the types of clients that you have, which we'll talk about the different types of clients you might see, but clients have different needs. Some of them are super busy and don't want a ton of meetings. Some of them will want to only talk on the phone and have you send everything over via email. Some will be happy to jump on a Zoom call or want to jump on a Zoom call or meet in person constantly. Naturally, you want to be adaptable to the types of clients that you have. You can set expectations right off the bat. I think it's important no matter what. So if you have your, kind of processes and your meeting cadences that you want to stick to, it's better to address that early on than having some sort of miscommunication when it comes to, you know, how frequently you're expecting to meet with your clients or how infrequently. You want to be on the same page and be aligned. So communication is going to be really key, especially early on in this process. So when it comes to the order of operations, here's how I like to think about it in terms of the meetings and the action items is initially you're going to have your intake call, and that's going to be almost after discovery. You've already closed the client and you really want to get into the nitty-gritty details of what you need to know to be able to execute the review management strategy for them. One thing that's really important, and you know this with your agency, but whether your review management services are part of other services that you're already offering, like if they're already tied into local search and SEO, any sort of PPC that you're doing, if you're offering listings management and optimization, personally, I think that's something that you almost need to have some sort of say in or optimization. I'd be curious for everyone who's attending if you want to share if you do listings optimization for your clients. I feel like it's a necessity because ultimately when we're tying the performance of review management to other marketing and ultimately tied to the business objectives, which a lot of times are going to be, revenue, driving sales, driving calls, booking appointments, the listing is going to have a huge impact on that. And so naturally, if that's a service that your agency is offering, you'll want to, be able to help with that, to be able to make an impact and ultimately improve those KPIs that your client is asking for. After the listings optimization is all set, then it's kind of, I think it makes a lot of sense, the order of these things. Review generation. So you have your listings, then you can start generating reviews. Review monitoring. You want to start knowing when new reviews are coming in. Review marketing is can be done at any point. The review marketing and review reporting I have actually kind of simultaneous. These can also be done at the very beginning because a lot of these are just a little bit about configuration and set it and let it. Review marketing we'll get into a little bit. But there are opportunities outside of Grade Us that you can do review marketing when you're grabbing reviews and using them in emails, in advertising. Joanne says that for her, the listing is a main thing that draws them. So, or the thing. So reviews almost complement your listing services that you offer, which makes a ton of sense because ultimately that is the car and reviews might be like the engine or, well, not the brakes, the acceleration. what's a good analogy for reviews as a car? But yeah, the listing really is the meat and potatoes of I'm going to come up with a bunch of like awful analogies though, but it's the meat and potatoes of their kind of local presence. So in terms of these operations, starting to look at the intake meeting. So in this first meeting, what you Michael's like turbocharge, exactly. We'll stick with the automotive analogy for the rest of the presentation, maybe, if I remember. You remind me, Mike. Okay, so the pre-client review management service intake. So you've already closed the client, but it's important to talk through the expectations that we mentioned. What is the client expecting you to do for them? Are you doing listings? Are you doing review generation? Are you doing review responses, or are you just teaching them how to respond to reviews? Are you providing them with marketing collateral? Having this conversation in the very first intake meeting, I think, is going to be critical in terms of their happiness. When we talk about customer feedback, a lot of it is just aligning the customer's perceptions and the expectations with the value that you're delivering. So be transparent, have that conversation, discuss it with them, and then talk about responsibilities. You need to know, not only when it comes to review responses, who's going to be responsible for responding to the actual reviews on Google, on Facebook, on Yelp, on any third-party industry review site that they're have a presence on. Is that going to be you? Is that going to be them? When it comes to uploading email or SMS customer information for review requests, how is that workflow going to look? And we'll get into that a little bit, but like having at least a precursor, planting that seed to that conversation early on, I think is really important. Are they going to use the invite portals and teach their staff to add a customer email or text every time they have an interaction? Are they going to send you a list at the end of every week? And then have you upload it for them? Is it all self-service? Are you just giving them access to a white labeled Grade Us dashboard? Are you going to do integrations where you have to integrate, but you have to connect to their accounts? These types of responsibilities are important to discuss. Also for marketing, like when it comes to, adding the review stream to their website or the Review Us button. Are you going to be doing that for them? Are they going to give you access to their website, or are you going to provide it to their web developer or some other vendor? That's all part of the conversation in this intake meeting. Goals and objectives when it comes to how are you tying reviews to their actual business goals. Are you tying it through their Google My Business insights and their Google Analytics? Are you going to have insights into all of that and be able to show how Google My Business via some UTM parameter tracking is actually driving traffic and ultimately KPIs to their business, which leads into those metrics and KPIs. And then how does that tie into their reviews? Are they expecting a certain amount of reviews per review site over a given time, over a given month? And then ultimately their current benchmarks. So where are they at and their scenarios? We're going to talk about their scenarios momentarily, which is why I skipped that. And I have a lot to cover, as y'all can tell. So let me know if I'm going too fast and I will slow down if we have to go a little after. Like I said, this will be recorded. But I wanted to cover all of this information, which I think is, your kind of front to back 30-day review management strategy plan for agencies. So when it comes to the client scenarios, I think we've all realized that when you have that initial discovery or even that intake conversation, you're getting a sense of where the clients are at. And I've bucketed them into 3 different segments because I think it really impacts the type of help and the amount of services that you're going to have to provide for them. The first is a client with no reviews and they have no system. So these are folks who are really starting from scratch. To Joanne's point, they might have come to you because they haven't even, claimed their Google My Business, and they're expecting you to really help with that whole process for claiming, for adding all of their information, for optimizing it, to making sure that they are prepared for success and starting from scratch. And that's a lot of work on your end. So scoping that out is going to be really important. And that's why you might want to spend the entire first week, maybe even the first 2 weeks, setting up all of their review listings. In addition to that, they have no systems. They have no systems about asking for reviews. They have no system for monitoring reviews. They have no system for responding to reviews. That's going to take a lot of protocol and processes time for you to set up in the beginning as well. That's why sometimes I actually recommend for agencies who are offering review management to do an onboarding fee at the beginning, because that is where a lot of your initial work is going to go. Or to Joanne's point, if you have almost like a whole listings management service, to differentiate that from, the ongoing retainer of review management as a service. Second scenario is some reviews, but no system. So maybe they actually have some reviews like 4.1 star rating, and maybe they have like, 7 to 10 reviews on Google, but like compared to their competition, they're blown out of the water. They're not really close, but they're not fully starting from scratch. Therefore, you can spend a little more time, focusing less on their actual listings and optimizing that, and more about putting those processes into place, training them, making sure they're asking for reviews. It's also going to be influenced by the industry that they're in. Some of you folks are experts when it comes to your industry, so you know inside and out like what works for the dental industry or for law firms or for real estate agents. So putting that process in place for them is going to be huge and helpful. The third scenario is bad reviews or bad reputation. And I think it's really important to take a moment and evaluate whether or not it's a good fit for your agency, and going back to the expectations, what your clients have. Because I think when they have a lot of bad reviews or a bad reputation, it's going to be challenging not only to get positive reviews because maybe they're not used to asking for positive reviews, but there might be some fundamental issues with the business that will require some additional business consulting. And that might be something that you want to consider with review management. Either, pass them on to a PR agency if you don't do PR, or pass them to another, like find a mutual beneficial relationship with another business consulting agency if that's not what you do. Or think about how this will take a much larger program to evaluate and fix some of the problematic aspects of their business that'll ultimately make, no matter what you do with review generation strategy, unsuccessful. So once you have all of your intake information and that first meeting has passed and you think you have everything that you want, we're going to move on to the listings optimization. So when it comes to the action items, so as I mentioned, before this next listings optimization meeting, there's a series of action items that you can do to prepare ahead of it. And so you've already sent your proposal, you've already closed this deal. So this is serviced work that you're providing. So this might involve claiming, setting up and optimizing the actual review site listings across Google My Business, adding the Facebook reviews tab to their Facebook page, if they have Yelp, and then any other industry specific review sites. Depends on what you discuss with the client. You can tackle one or two, or with some industries like healthcare or home services, you can really go all out and tackle 3 or 4. The example that I did last month when I was going through prospect reports, I was using my local dentist, and I was showing how he had really great Google reviews and he had an incredible ZocDoc profile, but he did pretty much nothing when it comes to health grades and minimal. He has 5 stars at Yelp, but he doesn't have a lot of reviews at Yelp, and you can see it's actually unclaimed. So even if they have one of their sites, kicking butt, I think it's important for you to show the value of optimizing, claiming, and setting up all of the other sites, and how those all can ultimately generate more traffic, more business wins for the client. Part of that is creating an audit review site listing sheet. So documenting in this blog post, and you'll see from my last month's video, how you can benchmark your client review portfolio, either in a spreadsheet or naturally you can use Grade Us review reports. But setting those benchmarks for the client's review portfolio, knowing the point that you're starting from when it comes to how many reviews they have, when was the most recent review, what is their review rating across the different sites, and then setting goals. So you're doing all of this preparation ahead of the listings optimization meeting. And we'll talk about what you're going to do in that meeting, but also in connecting to the goals and objectives of the business, also the review conversion goals. So, thinking about, we're going to send out a certain amount of email review requests per week. We're hoping to deliver this many new reviews and increase your rating this amount. And as you do this more over time with more clients, I think you'll get a sense of what are reasonable expectations based on the volume of emails that they send out and the industry that they're in, and what the competition looks like. I mean, a lot of times when it comes to online review performance, a lot of it is going to be based on when you do a local search in their geography, how does their listing look compared to the other competitors? And you're going to compare it to the quantity of reviews, the review ratings, and then to some extent how recent the reviews are. And that's all things that you'll want to bring to the table when you discuss and go over the listings optimization action items that you did this week in that next meeting. So when it comes to listings optimization, usually I recommend, it's the first week after you've performed, all of these action items that I just discussed. The meeting can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, which is ideal. And this is something that you've discussed already in that first intake meeting of what is an appropriate amount of meetings and timeframes for the client. In this agenda, what you're going to do is you're going to review the service goals and expectations across all of your performance. You're going to claim your review site profiles if they have not been claimed yet. Sometimes you'll get into the review site listings and you'll find that it's not claimed and you either need help to do it with your client because they have access to the business. And so in this meeting, sometimes I recommend just doing it together. Like let's crank it out while we're on the Zoom call. Let's actually claim these business site profiles. Review the optimization of your client's review site profile. So what I mean with that is going through their Google My Business with them, going through their Yelp, their health grades, and making sure that all the information is correct and filling out all the gaps. Now, ideally, we would have everything covered in the discovery call and the intake meeting, so you don't need their assistance, but there's always going to be surprises. And I think this is also a good time to reinforce that if anything does change for their business, there's a ton of value for them to let you know so you can add it to their listing. Like, if they change their office hours and you're going to be in charge of, special holiday office hours, let them know in this meeting so it's all set on your calendar to update it when that happens. Or, with COVID, there are all these new Google My Business attributes that you could add, or Google Posts or anything like that. You could be having that conversation now to make sure that you're on the same page in terms of responsibilities and making those additional changes as they come. So key tasks, we're going to benchmark our current performance. So you're going to go through with them where they are in their reviews. You're going to talk about how you're going to set up their review management campaign. So you do want to make sure that you get everything that you need from them. So for the review generation part that's coming up next week, that you have everything to be able to do it. I will say a lot of times you won't get everything in this meeting. So, send via email, hop on the phone during the week as things come up. But if you can accomplish everything that you need during the meeting, then you're more likely to be successful. And so goals for the meeting is confirming the roles and responsibilities of the employees for review management, starting to talk about the uploading the customer list and responding to reviews, adding the list of customers to your Grade Us account. So that's one thing I do recommend in this initial meeting is getting that first list of customers. So when you do have their review funnel and their email campaign set up, that you can start sending those out right out of the gate. So next up is going to be review generation. And so we're going to talk about this. This is the juicy stuff when we're talking Grade Us. This is what I love. So when it comes to review generation, the action items that you're going to do over that next week after the first listings optimization meeting is you're going to set up the review funnel landing page in Grade Us. You're going to add the review funnel button and review stream to your client's website. So this goes back to the vendor sort of information is if you do have access to their website, add the review us button so they can start getting reviews from any traffic on their website that they get. I recommend adding the review us button either to their homepage towards the bottom. I don't think you necessarily need to make it a feature item, but wherever they're comfortable having you add the review us button, definitely add it in the footer because then it'll appear on every site across every page across the entire website and increase your chances of getting reviews from people who are already visiting their site. And then finally, on their reviews page or testimonials page, just whenever someone is going there to look at reviews, having that button available for someone to leave the review on the spot, that's going to make sense. It's going to increase the chance of review generation. Creating your email SMS review request campaigns. So making sure that everything is set when it comes to the emails. If you want to do any sort of customization for the specific client, as opposed to just using the Grade Us default, do that over the course of this week. Make sure that it's good to go. Always, I recommend sending a test example to your client before you do start adding their customers. Make sure that you get sign off, and that can be done via email, but make sure that you check with them before just sending off the first review request to actual customers. Then you're going to upload your client's customer list and start generating those reviews. So when you set up that next meeting in week 2, you'll already have some reviews to go over and start talking about the performance of the funnel. And then I want you to have an actual workflow, a future workflow that you're ready to present to them for the review generation meeting. So it's really important when you're thinking about the workflow, and you touch base on this in that first meeting as well, but are you going to be having the staff, invite people to write a review from the invite page that you have through Grade Us? Are you going to set up, when people are going back to the stores, a kiosk with the opt-in on, a tablet in the store to send review requests? Are you going to set up integrations and have everything connected to their Salesforce account or their MailChimp or Zapier or HubSpot? Have that figured out to bring to the next meeting, and then the review integration, if you already know that, then you can set that up on the spot. So in your review generation meeting, which is usually in week 2, after you've completed all of those action items, now we're really going to go through the review funnel setup, show to your clients exactly how it works, how they receive the email or the text message, they click that link, they go to the review funnel, they do it based on whatever layout that you've chosen, whether it's the 5 stars, the thumbs up, thumbs down, the happy faces, just the buttons if you don't want to do any sort of segmentation. I think it's also, an opportunity to talk through their options there if they don't like the way that you set it up. Some people do like to actually discuss the review funnel, prior in that, initial intake meeting to make sure that they know what their clients want, because when they've, seen the whole pitch that you've made and you've shown them the different review funnel options, they might already have their heart set on one of the different layouts, and that'll save everybody time. Review the setup of your review generation campaign. So show them the emails, the campaign drip. You can see with that if they want to ask for, more reviews in the drip, less reviews or less emails in the drip, more text messages, less text messages. I do think it's important to show your expertise there and share with them that it is valuable to have at least 2, if not 3 emails in the drip. We saw from Carl White's case study that a significant amount of your client's customers will actually write the review from the second or third reminder. And I think the stats back that up. So, that's a compelling argument for you to make to your clients when they're asking about the email drip campaign. And then this is also an opportunity to actually train your customers if they're going to be uploading clients themselves on how to do that. So if you're doing that on a Zoom call, or if you're doing that in person at this point, walking through the appropriate person, or even recording how they're going to do it and being able to send the Zoom call to them afterwards, exactly how they can, send you a list and what that needs to be formatted like, or use the email form, the invite form, or if you're providing a white label service, to walk them through the process of adding them manually if that's what they're going to do. Yeah, that's pretty much it for review generation. Any questions up to this point? I've been going through a lot. We've already covered that initial intake meeting. We've covered the listings optimization and setup meeting. We're in week 2 and we're talking about review generation. And once all of those major components are set up, it becomes a lot easier. Review monitoring we'll talk about is really about just making sure you've trained and talked through how you're going to respond to the emails. But Joanne wants to know, you're curious what ranges you're typically seeing for onboarding fees. I think it really depends. I hate to say that, Joanne. I'm like, it depends. But it does depend, I think, on the industry and your clientele. The higher the industry budget, so for some upscale industries like fancier hotels or law firms, I think there is opportunity to charge anywhere from $200 to $750 for an onboarding, since that is a one-time charge. I think it's a lot of work. So I have seen people like go to that higher range, especially when you list out everything. And it could even be higher than that, especially if you're working with like a multi-location business and you're setting up a bunch of different locations. Even though you're setting up the initial template, there's still going to be, like for the review generation part, there's still going to be a lot of the listings specifics that you need to set up that might have nuances to it and require a lot more legwork on your end. Andrew asks, with regards to the recommendation of 1 to 3 emails for reminders on emails, is that within 1 week or another time span? So I think it's good to do it within 1 week. That's been what I've seen. That's the case for Carl's case study, Andrew, just because you always do want to be top of mind. I think, you could have a 4th one that goes a few weeks later, but with a lot of these, they are going to want to be transactional or connected to your service offering. So the interesting thing is you can almost set up 2 funnels as well, depending on the industry. So like for Andrew, a lot of times what we'll see is people actually ask for reviews or set up for reviews when the initial sales call happens. So like in car dealerships, when they have that first, great interaction with the salesperson and they make the deal, they might ask for the review then. And then like a few months later, set up another, review request from, especially if they come in for like a car repair, not that they would have to with the new car, but, any other service related need, or just generally outside of that initial call. I'm trying to think, like home service providers, similar sort of thing, is like almost setting up 2 campaigns, one at the initial sales call and then one once it's been complete. It also depends on like repeat service. So, with Great Us, you have the ability to remove repeat customers from the recipient list. So depending, like talking through that threshold, if you have someone who's coming in 3 or 4 times a week, you might want to set that threshold so they don't get review requests, 5 times in a given, 5 like starting campaigns at a given week. So make sure you go into your review requests and then under recipient, set your settings to, adjust that threshold depending on how frequently you see that customer. I hope that's helpful. So moving on for review monitoring. With review monitoring, the configuration with like Grade Us is a lot more simple. Basically, all you want to do is make sure that you have your email notifications set up for new reviews. So depending on whether that's you or your client or both who are going to be responding to reviews, that you're getting those notifications. I think with review monitoring, a lot more comes into play when it comes to the protocols and the best practices and the education, the training around responding to reviews. I think it's worth it to talk with the customer in the meeting that's coming up about, you know, how they're going to respond to reviews, what they should be saying, when they should get your advice, whether like negative reviews versus positive reviews and the frequency, and figuring out which employee is actually going to be responding to those. And it might depend, like you might have a one customer success employee respond to all the positive reviews, but maybe you have like a customer success manager, or even your client, the owner of the company, if it's a really small company, might be the person responding to reviews. Or naturally, it might be your agency responding on behalf of the client, but you want to check with them before you leave the review, especially when it comes to a negative review that needs some sort of resolution. So that meeting in week 2, at least 30 minutes, but you really want to talk through all of these different scenarios. Like I said, a lot of agencies want to do this in week 1. I think it's a lot. It makes sense when you bring somebody on and you want to cover everything, but to be able to offer a great service, I don't think you want to overload your customer or your agency too much. So do it at your own pace. Depends on the volume of the customer as well. Obviously a restaurant is going to see a lot more reviews, and not everyone's going to expect a reply to those reviews compared to like a law firm. But it really is something that you want to work through initially with those expectations of the client. So the goals for this meeting are mostly confirming the roles and responsibilities of the employees for review management, and then making sure that they have their review response message templates, just so they know and feel empowered to answer when a certain type of review comes up. And then this is just really the kickoff meeting. After this meeting, like weekly going forward, or if it is infrequent, maybe you do this all via email, but just checking in on the monitoring, making sure that they're responding to reviews, making sure that they're able to ask questions about how to respond to reviews, if they are answering them on your behalf. That is something I think that you'll want to check in with weekly, monthly. We're talking just 30 days, but it's always good to think, under the assumption that you want to continue on this relationship after that first month. And so getting those cadences in place. Some more client clarification questions that I think is important to work out in this review monitoring meeting is who is responsible for monitoring reviews. Make sure that the client understands that, who's in charge of responding to reviews, kind of some of the stuff that we've already covered. Here's an interesting one. Who has the decision-making power authority regarding review disputes? I think the best setup for success is understanding who can actually solve a situation, whose voice matters when it comes to an apology for a negative review, who can actually provide a refund or an exchange. Now, the response isn't like a live situation. It's not like you're on the phone with a customer, but I think it's appropriate with any sort of, customer support to be able to provide a fair and quick response when it comes to a negative review. So even if the person who's responding to the negative review doesn't ultimately have the power making authority when it comes to those coming in, being in close conversation between the review responder, the ultimate decision maker, and then the review responder again, using this monitoring meeting to talk through that, I think is a valuable use of that time. Who needs to vet a review response before it's published? I think that, kind of ties into, is your agency responding to reviews on behalf of your client, and do they need to, check how you're going to respond? whether it's for positive or for negative review responses. And then how much time do you need to respond to individual reviews? So, that goes back to the volume situation. What is realistic? Are you getting 30 to 4 reviews per week? Are you just getting 5 to 10? Are you getting hundreds? Are you working across locations? All of this is going to impact, the service that you're offering when it comes to review management and what is realistic and what expectations you can set for your client. And so finally, the last part of this is review marketing and review reporting. Now, I put these at the end, but they are something that can be done simultaneously at the beginning. It really depends on your bandwidth, how much support you have from your team, and how many clients you're taking on. When it comes to the action items of review marketing and reporting, what it comes down to is A, setting up social media automation. So are you automatically sharing your 4 and 5-star reviews on Twitter and Facebook and setting that up, via Grade Us? We know that the actual setup is really quick. I think getting authorization from the client to be able to connect to their accounts to share it is the tricky roadblock of this type of action item. I think additionally, if you're working with multi-location, again, having that sort of align the way that you're going to handle it. Specifically, if you have, like Google My Business listings for each location, Yelp listings for each location, but say like, Health Grades or Better Business Bureau gets a little more complicated. Just understanding how you're gonna send those over to the individual locations. Embedding the review stream widget, I mentioned that earlier. That is something you can do from the get-go. I think it's a quick win that if you're able to get the review stream that shares the positive reviews dynamically on the client site, getting that done earlier in the 30 days is going to earn you some serious credibility. And so, if you can make that happen, do it sooner rather than later. I don't necessarily think it takes as much precedence as review generation and listings optimization, but it's just as important. So promote cornerstone reviews is really talking about this idea of, are there any special reviews? Now, this won't be automated, but are there any special reviews that you can identify outside of just the normal 5-star reviews that you get that you'd want to send over to the client for other marketing purposes? So if you see an awesome review come in, you can identify it, pull it out the copy or grab a screenshot, and then have that for your client to add in their emails, to have on their advertising, or maybe it's something you even get printed out really well designed and added to their store. That's something that you can do as an agency. That's an awesome value add that you can do on an ongoing basis that I think customers really appreciate. And I don't think enough review management agencies do this. So it's also a unique selling value proposition that you can add in your initial pitch if you plan on doing this. And then the other part of this with review reporting is configuring your weekly review performance reports, which you can see here in this little GIF, is setting up the weekly report, customizing it for your client, making sure it goes out like weekly or monthly, and ensuring that everyone who is supposed to receive it does. So that might just be the one business owner, it might be the marketing team, it might be the business owner, the marketing manager, and the support manager. Having those reports set up, it's easy to set up and something you can do at the beginning, but I just put it at the end because it doesn't seem like it takes as much precedence. It needs a little bit of its own attention. So for the marketing reporting meeting, I think it's important to go over the setup of the review stream, the setup of the social sharing, and then also to review the actual performance. So seeing how the reviews are going when it comes to, are your review numbers going up? Is the rating going up or at least staying the same if they already have a great rating? If it's not, figuring out why it's gone down, what happened in those reviews, did we respond to those negative reviews? Are we fixing that problem? That's kind of where you can put on your business consultant hat and say, hey, this happened. It looks like it's a one-off. Let's just be wary of it. Or, hey, I'm starting to see a trend here. Maybe this is something we need to bring support into and do a training session, or relook at our product, and maybe the product quality isn't where you need it to be. We need to revamp this. Get the people involved from their team that need to get involved. And then additional adding, the list of customers to the Grade Us account, making sure that they're being added. If you're not using integrations, whatever their process is, if you're seeing a fluctuation in the amount of email review campaigns going out, request campaigns going out via email and SMS, make sure you bring that up with the client in these weekly meetings. So I think that pretty much covers all these. And so, all of these are done by week 2 in terms of these initial setups. For the last 2.5 weeks of the first 30 days, you're checking in. I think it's important to make sure that everything's running smoothly. And then over time, after 30 days, maybe the cadence drops down. Maybe you're meeting every 2 weeks, or maybe you're meeting every month. Whatever works for that client. A lot of the heavy lifting comes in those early first 2 weeks. So that's pretty much it. Wow, it looks like I'm under time, but I do have some housekeeping that I wanted to share with everybody. And I also wanted to give an opportunity to see if there was any Q&A. Just a reminder, we're continually doing reporting beta test for signups. We have these really beautiful new reports that we can turn on for you to test. Now, they're not ready to be rolled out, and that's why we love for people to be able to take a look at them, give us feedback, let us know what about it that you love, what about it would make it more effective for your clients. It's not something that you have to commit to and then you're stuck using the new version. So you can really test it out and then go back to your own version. If you're interested, it's awesome. We're having our product director, Francis, who's been with Grade Us for a while now, is taking on this project. And so you can email him directly at beta test for reporting in the subject line, francis@grade.us. He'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm really excited about this reporting. I think it's just going to continue to show the value of Grade Us more effectively. Like, as you've seen, for those of you who weren't here last month or the month before, we're starting to see these types of metrics, like how you perform before Grade Us versus your all-time totals. And that is straight up going to show like how Grade Us is helping your clients with reviews. Mike says he's on beta and it looks great. Thanks, Mike. I'm really glad that you got the chance to check it out, because I know you and I talk from time to time, and you're actively trying out our new features. So appreciate that. Speaking of beta, well, actually not beta, we have our integrations is live at this point. We've cranked out a new one, which is Constant Contact. We now have Constant Contact, HubSpot, Salesforce, and MailChimp are all live in the app. You can try them out right now for free for 30 days. Highly recommend you do this. This is another thing in intake that I also recommend that you ask is if your clients are using one of these CRMs, what integrations are is they automate the review request process, and it makes it so smooth so you don't have to depend on clients to upload customer info or do it yourself. So if they're using HubSpot or MailChimp or any of these that we have connected, what you do is you go integrate us, you click on the integrations tab on the left-hand side, and we have a whole demo that we can set up if you want to talk to somebody, or if you want to just see on our website, and I'll include that link after, where you click integrations, you click the integration that you want to use, then you connect it to whatever list your client is on, you get the authentication. Once it's connected, boom, you start sending out these email requests anytime a customer is added to that list. It also works for SMS. It's basically tied to that specific seat and whatever your review request settings are. So if you have both email and SMS set up, then it will send out both. Just text, it'll just send out text. So we'd love for you to try it. You try it for 30 days. On the professional plan, it's ultimately after that 30 days, $20 per location, or sorry, per seat per month. On the agency plan, it's $15 per seat per month, and on the partner plan, it's $10 per seat per month. But you can try that out, as I mentioned, for 30 days for free. And if you do have any other requests for specific integrations that we don't currently have, make sure that you add it. There's a button on the integrations page to let us know. We do have QuickBooks coming soon, but ultimately we're really excited. We've gotten a lot of great feedback about the integrations feature, and our dev teams put a lot of work into it. So other than that, check out our blog, check out our changelog. I think I pretty much covered everything. Recently, we were doing on the blog some updates around Facebook and how to get the most out of Facebook recommendations. I just published the new version of this 30-day agency review management plan with a lot more details for you to get more resources from. So happy to hear that you're loving the enhancements, Mike. We're working on a few more things. Everything's top secret right now, but like the most forward-facing one is the reporting, which obviously we're excited about in integrations. What else did we publish on our blog? Oh, we did talked about, if you are familiar with Whitespark, they do listings management. They did a new release of their 2020 local search ranking survey, where they ask a bunch of different experts what they think are the major factors that are going to improve your rankings for local search. And of course, reviews was like the #2 result after Google My Business signals, like your business name, your category, having a filled out active Google My Business listing. So we did kind of a follow-up post of what are the top 7 local SEO ranking factors to audit. That was a guest post from Data for SEO founder Nick Sheretz. Really happy with how that turned out. And we got a few more great posts coming out. Next week, keep your eyes peeled for, it's like 30 B2B ideas for local marketing, which I love because so many of our customers are B2B, and there's so many creative ways, especially now, to think about how you want to do your local marketing. So that blog post will be out on Tuesday. If there are no other questions, we are about time. I will give you all back 5 minutes at the end of this hour. But I just want to say again, thank you all for being customers. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me, for using GradeUs, for being interested in review management in the same way that I am, and local search. As always, don't hesitate to reach out to me personally, Garrett@grade.us. It's GARRETT @grade.us. I'm always happy to hop on a call, just talk review marketing, talk review management. Otherwise, thank you, Joanne, for joining us. Everyone, have a great rest of your day. And oh, just a heads up, I will probably actually not be having a office hours next month. We will be taking a break. But the following month, we've got some fun things planned. It's going to be a little bit around social media and local marketing, which I'm excited about. But if you do ever have topics you want me to tackle, either reply in the email or send me an email personally. Have a great rest of your day. This is Garrett, signing off.